What's up, everybody? I am pumped today, but I say that all the time. So one day I'm going to start telling you why. Maybe today is the day. I have my very first guest on the podcast,
Yay.
Payton Moran. So this one's going to go down in history. It's such an on-time topic, and I'm excited not only about the topic, but just to chat with Payton. Hey, I'm Steph Rubio, your go-to for no-nonsense chit-chat on growing a business and life that you actually love. Around here, we're rooted in who we are, even if we're still learning to love her, getting clear on where we want to go, and we're relentless in our pursuit to get there. We're clawing our way out of survival mode and learning to bet on ourselves. We get into the nitty-gritty of growth in life and in business, money, identity, boundaries, healing, leadership, parenting, partners, and all the messy bits in between. If you're ready to grow on your own terms, laugh a lot, possibly cry a little, maybe laugh until we cry if we're lucky, then hit subscribe and let's get into it. This is Rooted and Relentless. Grab your notepad and hold on to your tits. This one's for you. Payton is a business coach and messaging strategist and a fellow
Yes.
queen of personal branding. But I'd say queen 2.0 if we're comparing the two of us, because even though I'm building a pretty badass personal brand and people are starting to recognize my name, and we'll get into how that's part of a personal brand soon, Payton hosts a whole damn conference about it. So there's definitely differences there in how she leans into that as a powerhouse right now in the online space. She's heavily leading others to do the same, and leadership is something I value, especially again in the online space where a lot of folks are trying to shepherd a lot of people. When I run into someone like Payton, Payton, you really lead by example, and I love that. So no surprise that we were drawn to each other. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I think you did perfect. I think sometimes it's even easier for other people to introduce you than it is for you to introduce yourself. So I think you nailed it. And I'm excited to have this conversation.
Okay, cool. Well, let's dig it back then. The first thing I want to ask, like, we can't just spend a whole episode talking about a personal brand without
Yeah.
answering the question, what is a personal brand? What, in your words, is a personal brand?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think of a brand, you think of probably first and foremost something like Amazon or Walmart or something with a recognizable logo, something that you can pick out in a crowd where that is. They have their own little thing, they have their own little shtick, they have their own message. And a personal brand is literally just exactly what it sounds like. It's building that brand on the back of you versus colors, logos, all of those other external things. It's really just building your brand based on yourself and who you are. And I think that it's especially important for service providers. And that's really the main people that I work with is women in business who are providing a service, whether that's coaching, consulting, graphic design, copywriting, but they're selling a service. And a lot of times we can go anywhere to get a service, right? Like I could pop
Yep.
over to Google or Chat GPT or my local Facebook group and probably find hundreds of people who could make me a website. But the thing that's going to make you stand out is not the service that you deliver, but the person behind it, who you are and what you bring to the table, not just what you do.
Yep. Oh, I love that you said that, and specifically that you called out how important it is for service pros. But before, that's why I wrote down a note so I don't lose it.
Nice.
Before we get there, I'm going to go back to another layer because you called out brand specifically and brand awareness when you were talking about like Nike. If you said Nike, I always refer to Nike.
Look at you. You
McDonald's, people that
said
you
Nike.
know. Yeah, and you know like their tagline, just do it. Like I can
Yeah.
say that. That's brand awareness. That's a brand. Yes. So you add personal to the front of that. What are some examples that come to mind for me? Like Oprah. I don't think
Mm,
of O Magazine. I think of Oprah. That is a personal brand, right?
yeah.
Like I start to understand what she stands for. I can think of you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. So you
Yeah.
have these elements that then draw back to what that means for you. She's giving, she entertains her audience. Like these are values, these are part of her personal brand. And I know that regardless of
Yep.
if I watch 5 shows or not. So
Mhm.
that's the difference in a personal brand, and her brand would be like O Magazine, the own network now. I believe she has like her own
Yeah.
network.
Yeah, she's built all of these offers. You see the magazine, you see the show, you see probably merchandise, all of these other things. But all of those things would be nothing without the name Oprah behind it because she built it on herself first. So that's a
Yeah,
really good
yes.
example.
Yeah, I love that. And what we're doing here together, because I mean, we're not Oprah, not yet. Let's see what happens in 50 years. But the point is the same. Like right now, you pointed out service providers and why it's important. And I would also add it's important for the same reason is because we're like drowning in a sea of sameness right now. We're in this
Absolutely.
post chat GPT world and like, we love you,
Mhm.
chat. It is calling out for me why it's more important than ever is because we're in this like trust was like sucked out of our online industry almost
Yeah.
overnight because you could have literal robots. Like you can have AI avatars right now acting as a person and building its own personal brand.
Yeah.
And you don't know if you're about to buy an offer from someone who
Even
actually
exist.
delivers it or not. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and with that trust gone, it's harder for people, even like us, I'd say, harder than ever before to sell, depending on how you were selling before, or if you were already building a
Mhm.
brand and relationships. But that part stands out to me for service providers specifically and why it's more important than ever. Because if they don't know who you are and they only know your offers, it's gonna be really
Yeah.
hard to sell that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Agree.
Okay. Let's ask a fun question. Let's just peel back some layers here
Okay.
and see where it takes us. So think through like your coach, call that out. You have your own conference on building your own brand, leading others to do the same. What's the biggest mistake you see entrepreneurs making with their personal brand?
There's so many directions I could go, but I think the biggest one is just hiding. Even when you think that you're not hiding, if you're emulating or you're pulling inspiration from anything else, then it's not a brand built on you. Like sometimes I say things and weeks later, I'll see somebody saying the same thing. And it's like, I never would have even known that they said that. I'm not even bothered.
Yes.
They should not even bothered. Nobody should be bothered because we're all having a very similar experience out here. And if we're all speaking from our own experience and our own perspective and our own perception, then we can relate to other people who are having that same experience and call that out. And I think that's really goes into thought leadership. But yeah, the biggest mistake I would say is just hiding, feeling like you should say something, feeling like you're being called to say something and backing out of it, shutting it down. It can be as simple as when you throw up your stories every day, you film your whole sequence of stories and then you're like watching it back, critiquing yourself. Or you're like, let me put on a filter because you can really see that pimple. It's just hiding in every sense of the word is the biggest mistake that I see with personal brands.
Yep. I would agree there. And now something I want to ask, because I have my answer. I want to hear yours too. And
Oh,
we
good.
can just go back and forth here is, and I always like to ask the why questions, like strategy is my jam. So
Mhm.
the biggest mistake people do is hide. They're not authentic. They do exactly what you said, right? Even if they're getting to the point where they're ready to post or they're
Yeah.
filming it and then they like backtrack or they change what they're saying because they got to polish it or do something different.
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah.
Why are they doing that? Or why are they
Programming.
hiding?
Yeah, programming. That's gonna be my answer for everything is societal programming, the fear of being yourself, the fear of speaking out, the fear of being judged by the people you went to high school with. Yeah, and just fear of
Yes.
being seen. And a lot of times people don't even know that they're doing it. A lot of times it's not intentional at all. Sometimes it is intentional. Like there are, unfortunately, the icky people out there that are like, ooh, that was a really good post. I'm going to copy it and put it for myself. There are people that do that, yeah. But most people, especially people that I tend to attract, they don't know that they're doing it. They just need someone to call out those patterns, like that negative self talk. Because a lot of times, if we're just by ourselves and we're posting content and we're doing all of these marketing tasks, we're spending more time in our head than we are actually doing the task most times.
Yep.
So when you do
Yep.
everything by yourself, you don't have anybody to pick up on those patterns and say, hey, I notice that you're talking about the way that you look a lot, like that you're picking out your imperfections. And it's not that you want someone to critique you, it's just that you want someone to bring awareness to the things that you've been doing and thinking and telling yourself for so long that you don't even realize it anymore.
Yeah, the all like who you surround yourself with, having a community,
Mhm.
having people in building intentional relationships is also really important right now in the
Yeah,
online space because we've worked from home for so many years that we
absolutely.
got stuck and siloed and stagnant and lost that. And we're trying to build that and find that again. I call it biz buddy. Like, will you be honest with me? Will you tell me that? Is a great
Yeah,
point. Like having
just
people
be
like
straight
that.
with me.
Okay, so you said the same thing. So you started with programming though, and you backed it to fear, and that's exactly what I wrote down because this is what I
Nice.
see too in the people I attract is it's a fear, and I love that you said the people in high school because I always talk about it, like, I gave them a name recently, Aunt Susie May, I did a whole podcast episode on it.
Nice.
The amount of people and I remember this, like, I didn't let it stop me, obviously, because here we are, but I remember the same thing when I started, I had a personal Instagram, and I was like, "Do I keep the personal? Do I go business? Blah, blah, blah. If this person sees me, they're gonna be like, 'Here she goes again.'" Because I
Yep.
started at MLM a long time ago, I tried to sell makeup in a living room because I was a young mom
Yeah.
with a dream to not keep working for other people, right? And I also started my own whole other business once upon a time and then gave up on that because then I was a young, like not yet single mom. I was in a real bad place. And I was like, people are going to be like, here she goes again. They're not going to take me serious. And here's what I like to do with people who are feeling that fear and they are worried because we know people, Peyton, right now who told me that same thing a couple weeks ago that actually shocked me that they were scared because they had family on their Instagram. And I'm like, all right, well, let's play worst case scenario. I love to do this with my clients.
Mhm.
If they do, if they see it, if they see this content and you're worried about their judgment or cringe or whatever, are you trying to sell to that person? Like, are they going to buy what you're selling? No. Okay. So why are you worried about them and
Yeah.
talking to them?
They're not gonna buy it
Okay.
anyway.
Exactly. Now, if they do judge you and they have something to say, do they know anything about your business? Do they know anything about business? Like first, usually that's a no. Do they know anything about yours? Have they marketed it on social media? Okay. Why are you listening to them? They're not going to buy the product. They're going to judge you. Also, there's a real big probability that's not true. Has this person ever
Mhm.
judged you and said it to you before? If that's no, then now you can't even tell me the probability is above zero because it haven't
Right.
happened. If it is, now honestly, you just need a business coach because you need someone to help you shut down that noise and approach these
Yep.
people and say what you're doing is actually hurting me, not helping me.
If somebody does judge you, you're not even gonna know.
Right. Because
They're
they're
not
too
even gonna
scared to
say
say it.
anything.
So why
I
are
mean,
you performing for those people?
maybe they scroll through and have a silent judgy thought about you or feel some type of way. They're just gonna scroll on by and keep going and judging other people. Like, you're not even gonna know.
Yeah. Here's the thing too, if you're actually being authentic, because what you called
Mhm.
out is like societal programming and tempering, right? Tempering like through a lens. And maybe
Yeah.
you're talking about one of your values kinda, but it's still tempered, or you back off and you're not as loud about it as you would be. These people actually know you because they're family and friends. They shouldn't be surprising because this
Yeah.
is what you stand for, right?
Very good point.
Okay, let's see. How do you balance being strategic with showing up authentically? Because being authentic, that's part of building your personal brand. It's if you're not actually, it's not your personal brand because you're not being authentic. We also can't just show up and talk about coffee all the time. Like we
Right.
have to sell something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love this question. What I always like to say to myself and my clients is treat your strategy like bumpers. Like, we do not want to be doing random things, throwing spaghetti at the wall, something different every week, seeing what sticks. When we have that strategy, we don't want to make it feel so rigid that it starts to become a barrier. You know
Yep.
what I mean? If you're taking your
Chains. Yeah.
strategy too seriously, it starts to become a barrier because then you can't post the content until you have XYZ, or until you're in this location, or until you have this makeup on, or whatever. So, as long as your strategy doesn't become a barrier to you doing the thing, actually
Yeah.
completing the task, taking the action, I will say I balance it by just checking myself, recognizing excuses within
Yeah.
yourself. It's just saying, like, okay, I'm saying that I'm going to do this thing. Why am I actually not doing it? I'm just making an excuse. I should do it anyway. I see this a lot with content, yes, but I also see this a lot with podcasts. I've got to have the good mic.
Good
I've
point.
got to have the good location. If I'm going to do it, I have to do it on video. If I'm going to sit down and do an episode, it's got to be 30 minutes. Like, there's a difference between having a plan and creating rules for yourself. Like, we don't want to have to,
Yep.
like, rules have no place in business because you're going to have to pivot and innovate all the time. There's no point in creating these restrictive rules. Just checking yourself and saying, am I making an excuse and calling it strategy and saying, oh, I have to wait because I have to do this?
Yeah, have you validated the reason or the excuse you gave
Right.
yourself? Because we don't know if it's an excuse yet, right? Because you're not telling yourself you're making an excuse.
Right.
You're telling yourself you have a reason not to start.
Mhm.
So
I see it
validate
a
that.
lot with
Why?
brand photos too. Like, people are like, well,
Yep.
I can't post content yet because I don't have good brand photos.
Listen,
Okay, you still have
my
a
first brand
face.
photos were on my iPhone.
Yeah, you still have a
Yeah,
face.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
show
and
up and say
guaranteed you
something.
probably have a $1,200 cell phone, right?
Yeah,
Like, almost
yeah.
guaranteed.
You have an iPhone.
Probably
You're good.
yeah, exactly. My first ones, and I still use them sometime. I had my first brand photos taken last year, like, by someone else. Well,
Yeah,
technically, my first ones were taken by my husband on my cell phone in my home. Like, one of them has a brick background. I still use them.
nice.
Like, it's okay.
Yeah,
Yes, agreed
that's what you
completely.
look like.
I, yeah, yeah, personal brand, right?
Yeah,
They know the face of Steph Rubio, even if my hair was different then.
right.
And the phones have good cameras, so don't overthink it. I like that you brought up podcasts too, and you started to talk about innovating a little bit there. It's something I'm very proud to do on my podcast. I was
Okay.
trying to like listen and niche, and I was fighting what I didn't want to do. So eventually I was like, well, I'm just not going to. I'm
Yeah,
not just going to make it about business or one area of business. There's a lot I want to talk about, and what better place to do it? So instead of listening to you better niche and you better pick one thing and it better be very clear to people, Steph Rubio I'm not trying to lock myself into a certain time of week. I'm not trying to lock myself into certain type of topics or themes yet. I'm going to take a look at the strategy at some point, but mostly I want to be me because if not, then I'm not drawing the right people in anyway.
Exactly. And I always tell my people, it's okay if you want to be a generalist. Like you're not going to hear many business coaches say that. You're going to hear people say niche down, pick something, pick a
Mhm.
lane. Yes, if you can, if it feels good for you, if it feels
Mhm.
authentic to you and aligned. If it doesn't, be a generalist because a personal
Mhm.
brand is going to ensure that you are still repelling the wrong people. That's the beautiful thing. You don't have to sit down and say, what's my differentiator? Do I have to do my service differently than everybody else? No, you don't because you are already the difference.
Yes, and I love that you said repel the people that
Mhm.
aren't yours because again, I can circle this back to the fear. Like people aren't always avoiding showing up authentically because of fear of like high school people or
Right.
family. Sometimes it's just because they're
Can't make
worried about not
decisions.
making a sell. They're
Yeah.
worried about like, oh, if people don't agree with this, they're not going to buy from me. Okay. The opposite is actually true. If people aren't buying from you because they don't agree with your values or what you're showing up about or talking about, that's actually a good thing. So it's just a narrative that I don't think people have completely switched yet or at least until they get to a
Yeah.
certain point. Because I like to say too, like, what if I draw you in with the wrong values, or because I wasn't really clear for what I stand for and how I operate and how I work, and we're 3 months into working together, and we realize this was
This
dumb.
ain't
We
working.
shouldn't be working together. Yeah. What if the opposite is true and I was real clear and we really connected over something because we laugh the same or we love the same thing? Like we're really big into
Mhm.
books. So we spend half of our time together really growing our businesses and the other half connecting over stuff we agree on. Like that is fun. Now I'm not only making
Absolutely.
money, but I'm having fun doing it because I'm not going by someone else's rules. I'm going by the ones I made up and what's important to me.
Yeah. I
So
totally
we
agree.
shouldn't be worried about cutting people out, but cutting the right people in.
Mhm. I
I
love that.
think we're getting closer to that. I think the move to personal branding or like the awareness, not the move to personal branding,
Mhm.
because that's not new, but the awareness is definitely changing. It's
Absolutely.
becoming a bit of a buzzword, I think.
I
I
think
think
so
people
too.
are starting to use it a lot more. You tell me, because you
Yeah.
had a conference last year. This isn't new to you. So I think this conversation is important. I think we're going to see personal brand pop up more. So, what advice do you have, if it's not already in what you said, for people that start to see it a lot more? Should we be looking out for with like what is a personal brand? Who's authentic to that?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's just time.
Yeah,
You might wanna invest in someone, you might see their content, your interest might be piqued. Give it a little time, I
yeah,
know that everybody in the online space likes to say, "Make decisions quickly." I guarantee you if you give it a little time, you will see half of the people in the online space contradict themselves. You will see them stand up
mm,
for something one day and do the complete opposite the next day.
yep,
So I think a lot
yes,
of it is just time, paying attention and seeing who contradicts themselves. That's going to weed out a lot of people because it's really easy to contradict yourself. A couple weeks ago, I posted on my Instagram that we were having a conference that didn't have any AI involved. No AI used in terms of creating the conference, hosting the conference, no sessions involving AI. Well, we were all chatting in the group chat, and somebody was like, "Oh my God, Ashley, you should do the AI twin thing that you talked about." And we were like, "Oh my God, yes." And I said, "Yes," because I wanted to learn about it. Like, I wanted to learn about that.
yeah,
And then I caught myself. So a couple of days later, I said, "You know what? We're not having any AI." So I had to go back and tell one of our speakers, "Hey, I'm sorry. We're going to have to switch up that session a little bit. We're not going to do AI." I think that a lot of people would build a more integrity fueled personal brand if they would just stand up online sometimes and say, "Hey, I was wrong about something." I
yep,
posted this thing or I said this thing and somebody gave me a different perspective and I changed my opinion on it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the main thing that I look for when I'm looking to see if people are authentic. How are you showing up? Is there anywhere that I can go on any of your stuff and hear you talk or see your face without a filter, see what you look like, what
hmm
you sound like? If I can't, I'm not buying from you. If I can't just see you candidly being yourself in somewhere in your online world, then I probably don't trust you that much because to me, that says you're hiding. And if it comes down to brass tacks and you need to know if I can trust this person, get face to face, whether that's in person or on Zoom or on a podcast interview or whatever. Just get face to face because the vibe will tell you. I hate to say this, but a lot of times it's the people who fancy themselves community builders. I'm a community builder. I'm a leader, I'm a thought leader, you know what I mean? And you have this impression of them online and you're like, wow, they're really out here. They're really doing things.
Yeah.
And you meet them in person and they're just on their phone the whole time. And it's
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
well, that's a little bit different. If there's a disconnect between how you're showing up and your voice and how you're projecting yourself online and then who you are in person, that's a red flag for me. That's an automatic disconnect. So you're
Mhm.
listening to this, just check yourself. Am I saying something in my content and copy that I would really say out loud? Or am I just
Right.
writing and making it sound good? Because you might
Yep.
think that that's harmless. You might think that, oh, I'm just zhuzhing it up a little. I'm just making it sound good. But it's detrimental to your brand
Yep.
because people can feel it subconsciously and in their energy when there is that disconnect.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, also example, I actually gave this example to a client today, like in my first client meeting of the day, is that people can tell. This is why we're seeing a big shift online, right? So, like,
Mhm.
it's again, I said this was an on time conversation. Maybe I didn't stop to tell people why, but you're seeing that now. You're seeing this kind of thing, why personal branding is so important too. It's a big market shift again in that post chat GPT
Absolutely.
world. When we lost the trust, you have to bring the trust back. People don't trust your carousel, they trust you and your face and you talking. And you
Mhm.
can still do carousels.
Yeah.
I do, if your carousel and the words in it match the way you would actually talk. So for me, this looks like I have a social media manager that helps me curate some of those kinds of posts. You've been on my Instagram, you know, there's a hell of a lot of me on there too.
Yeah.
I have to go behind in those carousels and make sure they're me. The
Yeah.
thought always comes from me because we plan once a month what I want to talk about. But then someone else crafts it. And I'm like, okay, but this is how I would say it. I would say hell right here.
Yeah.
Like I have to touch it because it has to be me, because people are going to know when they watch the 15 times I'm on my stories today and also that reel because I had something I thought about and popped off, and then they see a
Mhm.
carousel that's clearly chat GPT because I said no fluff 3 times. That's
Mhm.
not Stephanie, and they know
Yeah.
that. If you're being phony anywhere, it's going to show up. It's going to show up in your delivery. Nothing has
Absolutely.
disappointed me more and also made my job even harder to prove myself than the people who are stellar at marketing and fall flat on client delivery because
Mhm.
they are being phony. They know how to market, but they're falling short on their delivery.
Is why there is such a market shift is because we
Yep,
have most of the people that I talk to have experienced that on some level.
agreed. Yep, exactly. The trust was just stripped out. It felt like
Yeah.
overnight. It wasn't. But in just 2.5 years, we got ChatGPT, right? Almost
Yeah.
3. And that was great. And it still is. But because a lot of fake happened really quick and a lot of repetitive, and like that's not your fault. If
Mhm.
ChatGPT is pulling it, that's machine learning. So it's
Yeah.
pulling it from the internet, which is someone else's ideas and what they've created. It's pulling it from the top
Yep.
10, most important articles. So
Yeah.
it's not yours. And we know that when you can't then show up and back it up or just have like a live
Yeah.
conversation about
And a
that.
lot of times ChatGPT is not only pulling from the internet, it's pulling the messaging from all of these people that we're trying to get away from. So,
Yep.
over the past few years, 2019, 2020, 2021, when we had that huge influx of coaching and consulting and service providers in the online space. All of those people that were learning from those celebrity people at the top have just replicated and replicated and replicated
Hmm.
that messaging. So when you go to AI, you're not getting the fresh things that are on people's mind right now. You're
Right.
getting the old, crusty messaging that's pulling from the past few years. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, it's important because if you're wondering why you're not selling and you're
Yeah.
struggling, you're going to continue to do so and it's going to get worse. If you stop and pay attention,
Hmm.
it's going to get worse. 2026 and beyond, excuse me, better, depending on what your point of view is.
Depending
But
on who you
that is
are.
not going to work in, yeah, that's not going to work in your favor. This is a good conversation, but I like to give people advice. We're both coaches in some way, shape, or form. So, like, why this matters to people and what it means. My advice is first off, like, you're going to have to start being yourself if you want to stay relevant because trust is going to be queen. So you have to show up and you have to sell yourself truly. Like sell yourself, be yourself.
Sell yourself
Any other advice? Yeah. Yeah. The legal way.
the legal way.
Yeah. Any advice you would give people looking in the end of 2025, walking in 2026 when it comes to personal branding and how they show up in their business?
Gosh, we could spend a whole other hour just right here. Come to the conference, right? Come to the
Yeah.
conference because it's one of the only, actually, it's the only conference that I have seen that is designed for just personal brands. So every single speaker, keynote, breakout session is all designed for people who are speaking directly to personal brands. And I think that that's so important because there is a huge difference in the advice that you're going to get and the things that are going to work for you if you're building your business as a person or if you're building your business as a team. My
Yep.
biggest piece of advice is just to be yourself, is really just to be yourself. If you have something that keeps coming up for you, something that you keep thinking, something that keeps coming across your mind, say it. It's probably coming up
Yep.
for a reason. And the more that you have, a lot of people say, I don't have enough content for that. People say that either way, whether they're talking about themselves or whether they're talking about their services. They're like, I don't have enough content ideas. Okay, so start talking to people. If you do not know what
Mhm.
to say, if you do not know how to start building your personal brand, if you don't know how to put yourself out there, start talking to people. And when you do
Mhm.
talk to people, ask them, "What do you like about me?" I know
Yeah.
that that's a really weird question, but ask your previous clients, ask your friends and family, what's something that's just an element of me that maybe I don't see in myself? There was a photographer that I worked with a couple years ago, and I asked her that question, and she was like, "You know what? People do always tell me that I'm very quirky, but I don't
Mhm.
really feel quirky. I'm just myself." And I'm like, "Well, of course you don't feel quirky because that's just you, but other
Yep.
people would describe you as quirky. So use that so
Exactly.
that they can know that they're going to vibe with you." So just be yourself and ask people, what's
Yeah.
making you want to be my friend?
Yeah. No, and the way I did this for so long, I just asked people what made them push follow. Like everyone that came to my
Yeah,
page, I welcome them. I still welcome everyone. But now I typically know because I'm smart and I pay attention. And when I was a podcast guest and suddenly I get a lot of followers, like I know where most of you are coming from. I got it.
right.
But especially in the early days when you're trying to build something and you're trying to grow something and you're trying to sell your offers, ask people, hey, welcome to my little corner of the World Wide Web, is what I would say. I'd love that you found me. I'd love to know what made you push follow. And they'll tell me, you seemed really knowledgeable. I laughed at this one reel. You were funny. So I know that my humor attracts people. My knowledge is something. So share more knowledge, share more humor. People will tell you if you just ask them the questions.
Yep.
You can ask family and friends. If I wasn't in the room right now, how would you describe me? What do you think of when you think of me? If you pay attention to everything we said today, there is a human component to what's going to work going forward in business. That's going to be you showing up as yourself, but that means like you talking. If we can't trust
Yeah,
what's behind the camera because of AI and how much unethical content we've seen over the past years, the trust was gone. How do you rebuild the trust? It's a live component. So not only do you need to be going to live components and spending your money with people that you can build trust with live, people need to think about that in their offers. I have, you have. If you want to stay relevant and you want to sell, I'm not saying that everything you do has to have a live component, but you might have to have a live component to sell your offer. That live component
absolutely.
can be face to face. It can be a voice note. It doesn't have to be face to face. You don't have to do consultation calls. You could sell in your DMs, but you're going to have to talk to people. You're
Yep.
going to have to get to know them and you're going to have to share content that lets them get to know you,
Yes. I
or you're not
fully,
going to make
fully,
sales.
fully agree. We are going to have to go back to this traditional mindset of touch points. I
Yep.
am a business, I am a salesperson. You are my potential client. I am going to have multiple
Hmm.
touch points with you. We need to get
Hmm.
out of this mindset of posting content and signing clients. That is such a detrimental mindset to give, especially new business owners, because it's such a false sense of
Yep.
security that you're doing it right. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I probably spent, gosh, a year as a coach in my early days where I just posted every single day. I was so freaking consistent. It wasn't even funny. I posted every single day, Facebook groups, Instagram, stories.
Wow.
And I made no money. I made $397 my first year. And it's
Yeah.
because I had been sold this idea that you can post content and make sales. We are moving away from that. You're not going to be able to just throw something up and make sales. People are holding on to their money right now. People want to know who they can trust, and they're not making decisions like that anymore. I couldn't even count on two hands how many people would probably come for me and be like, I post content and make sales. But you do something else too. It's something else that
Hmm.
you do. It's the voice notes, it's the conference, it's the podcast guesting, it's the
Hmm.
networking events, it's some kind of touch point. It's not just your content, because that could be somebody else, could not even be me.
Agreed. Yep. Visibility and trust. You're going to get visible so more people can hear from you, what you stand for. You have to be yourself. You have to be authentic.
Mhm.
Figure out where you're going to do that. Figure out where your people are so you're showing up authentically in the right place. Quit being scared because scared is stopping you from making money.
Mhm.
Pay attention to live components for where you invest in your business and who you trust. And also and your offers, if you're planning any, if you're struggling to sell, it's probably because you're not showing up authentically enough or in the right places. This has been fun, Pete. Come to the conference. I'm going to drop the details in the show notes. It's end of September, so like right around the corner in Mobile. I'm going to
Woo,
be
so
there.
close.
I'm actually going to be leading a breakout session. Ops queen, systems queen. So I'm going to tie in personal branding to that. I'm going to take the fear out even more and simplify it so it doesn't feel like a job to grow a personal brand. It feels natural as it should.
Your
Full of
business should not
badass women.
Yeah, marketing your business should not take more time than actually delivering in your business, for sure.
All right. Let's wrap this up. I love to do a segment at the end, either reading with Rubio or snacking with Steph, pull in the personal elements, build a personal brand, if you will. Let's not hide it. I
Mhm.
love to read. I'm obsessed with fantasy, but sometimes I dabble in something that grow my brain, though I could argue they both do. But I also love snacks. I love food. You tell me which one you want to roll with today.
I have been big on first of all, I don't read books. I know that
Okay.
that's terrible, but for context for anybody listening, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. So, no book, no piece of paper, no card, no pencil is safe in my house. So, I'm a big audiobook gal, and a while back, I just finished Outlander. I
Ooh,
watched the entire series, and then I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna read the book," because one thing I love to do is try to find the inconsistencies between
ooh.
books and movies and shows. So, I finished
There's a
that.
lot in Outlander.
Yes, there's a lot,
Yeah.
stressing me out. I'm definitely not gonna start the 2nd book yet because they're, like, 40 hours long each, and I'm like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
But I am getting ready to, I think, start an audiobook of the people's history of America.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know who's gonna listen to this, but I haven't made this announcement yet.
Give it.
I'm starting after the conference a different podcast that has
Okay.
nothing to do with my business based on the falsities of American history, just the way that American history has been twisted and, changed to fit a narrative throughout our history. I'm literally getting chills right now talking about it.
Oh, no, this is
My
good.
first episode is actually on One Nation Under God because we were
Okay.
not founded as a
Oof.
Christian country.
God.
So, yeah, so I'm working on that. That is gonna be a fun little podcast. So that's a nice little element that if you were listening to this and you're like, "Ooh, maybe I vibe with her," and then you got to the end of this and I'm telling you that, like, I'm gonna help you deconstruct your whole life, Bible, America, history, slavery, like, we're gonna deconstruct everything. So, yeah, that's kinda my vibe. I'm really into conspiracy theories, so anything that I can listen or watch that is gonna be like, change my
Yeah.
perspective on something that I've been taught, I'm super into that.
Yeah, I love that too. So here's the thing though, like I love podcasts like this, the one you're creating,
Mm,
because of the learning element. I don't have to agree with you. I don't have to hear
yeah,
what you said and be like, okay, here she goes.
yeah,
I totally disagree. I learn because I have an open mind and I like to
absolutely.
hear the way other people process stuff. And first off, if it's backed by data, which
Yep,
you're talking about history and a lot of people use that as data and it's not.
nope,
So I love this element anyways that you're going to do it. I can listen to it and just open up the way I think. I can disagree
mhm,
with you in my head. It still furthers the way I think. And I
absolutely.
love that. If
Yep,
you're open to it, you're not an asshat, as I say, and you can just
yeah.
listen to things and digest
And the
it.
goal is
But
gonna be to present the facts. Like, the goal is gonna
yeah,
be to say, "Hey, here's what happened. Here's what happened next. Here's who was behind it, and here's who those people support." That's gonna be the
yeah.
goal versus it's not gonna be me sitting there like, "I believe da 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 da," like, that's not
Yeah,
girl.
it's just awareness and knowledge,
Yeah,
education. Because
absolutely.
education and knowledge are power,
Yeah,
truly.
I'm saying
Okay, yeah, well, we won't even talk about Outlander. I'll just say that I've done both. I've watched all the seasons.
oh,
I've read all the books. There are, well, except for the last one, I got stuck in the middle, and it's taking forever, and I get impatient. There are some big discrepancies between the two. Like some I haven't seen.
good.
I'm a fan of when they stay the same,
Me too.
unless, of course, there's something I wish they would have changed in the books and didn't. But there's some big ones that I'm like, "What? What was necessary? Why was that necessary?" But there's also a lot similar, so you could watch the show, like, and get really nostalgic if you had read the books,
Mhm.
or you can read the books and get nostalgic, but it'll be interesting. Keep me posted as you continue to read.
Okay.
And Blood of My Blood is out now. I actually turned that on last night, and I had to turn it off, but it's a prequel, and I've
Same.
heard tons of good things about that, so
Yes, I'm like 2.5 episodes in, I haven't, like, finished it. It's, like, one of those things that's kinda
okay.
hard to watch with kids around.
Exactly. I was a dummy because I watched Outlander. I know better, and I turned it on, like, at dinner
And
last
it's
night.
steamy right out the gate. Like, Outlander, you have, like, that build to it, but Blood
A
of My
build.
Blood is like, boom. right out
Yeah,
the
and gruesome. I think someone, like, got their fingers cut off, like, in the opening, like, before it even showed the, little
Mhm.
outlander and played the music, whatever the intro.
Yes.
Could think of
Yeah.
words here. Yeah, I was
Crazy.
like, "Okay, let's, just eat our
I'm gonna
dinner
come back
without
to this.
gore." Yeah. Yeah, another time. Anyways, Peyton, this was great. Thank you for being here. Thanks for having an open and honest conversation and, like,
For sure.
being a smart, knowledgeable woman in the space.
So excited. Thank you for having me.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Rooted and Relentless. If it made you laugh, nod along, or grab that cute little notebook of yours and scribble something down, please hit me with the SSR, subscribe, share, and review, as in leave a review. Don't forget to tag me on Instagram at virtually_Steph Rubio and tell me what you're reading this week. Seriously, I live for a good book moment. Thanks for hanging. Bye.